Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Today's Tuesday, August 13th. The time is now 6:05, and the City of Williston City Council meeting has come to order. This is our second budget hearing. Ms. Wright, would you please call a roll?
Mayor Goodman,
I'm here.
President Cox,
Here.
Vice President Hines,
Here.
Councilmember Martin,
Here.
Councilmember Riccio, she's absent, Councilmember Jones,
Here.
City Manager Terry Bavard,
Here.
Attorney Kirsten Ballou, she's absent, Finance Director Stephen Bloom, he's online, and City Clerk Latricia Wright, I am here, and all other staff.
All right. Item 1, opening prayer and pledge of allegiance by Mayor Goodman.
Join me if you will. Lord, we're coming together again as a community, leaders in that community doing the best they can to keep our community a good place to be and safe to live in. And Lord, I just ask you to be with each one of these council members as they deal with this material, help them to gather it in and to digest it and do the very best that they can as they usually do. And Lord, I ask you to be with our police department as they try to defend us from unknown dangers. And Lord, I ask you to be with all of our staff, the fire department, the utility department, everybody, because it's a crazy world that we're in now. And we ask your protection, and I ask that you put a hedge of protection over these meetings, over this hall, over the city hall in its entirety. I ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you very much.
All right. Item 2, budget introduction by City Planner Laura Jones, Community Development.
Thanks, sir. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it I had to leave early, our first budget hearing, so I just wanted to answer some of the questions that you had. And then if you have any additional questions, I'm here to answer them. So the first question was for planning and zoning about the comp plan, why that budget went down when the comp plan is supposed to be for next year. That's because we're working on the comp plan right now, and we're going to be billing a few months in this budget. So next year's budget went down a little bit. So we don't have that 175 for next year. For permitting, why are the building permits being reduced? Well, for the last year and a half, we've had a 98 home development, and that's complete. It's going to be complete, probably all the homes by this new budget by October 1. If it's not completed by then, the permits will most likely be in by then. So we won't have something like that next year. We only have one development that we know is probably going to be starting vertical next year, and it's only 55 townhomes, and it's only 15 buildings, and most of those permits will be coming. So 55 townhomes, the cost of permitting, remember, is like 1.5% or whatever, so it's a percentage of the amount of the house, which won't be nearly as much as 98 $200,000 houses. So that's why that went down a little bit. Code enforcement went up a little bit for training because my code enforcement officer retired, and so we have a lot of training to do, and unfortunately it's not inexpensive training for code enforcement, so we put that up a little bit. The CRA hasn't changed much. You have about the $1 million loan. We've been working on that for a while, so other than that, nothing has changed in the CRA. The animal shelter, that was raised due to requests from when this animal shelter was handed over as a bare building. I've been asked to have an exam room set up for veterinarians, and to do that, we have $4,000 to $5,000 worth of materials, and then the rest of it, $30,000 to $40,000 worth of equipment. Even if it's granted, even if it's donated, just to move some of these things, if we get like an X-ray machine moved, it could be $5,000 to $10,000 for it to be moved and set up. So I put kind of on the lower side. The city manager and I have discussed this in depth, and we don't really think we need a veterinary clinic right now. We don't think we're ready for a veterinary clinic. We think that we have a lot more things to do with our shell of a building that was given to us. We have some paddocks we need to build. We need some kennels outside for the police to be able to get to. And we need to pretty much stock it because we weren't given anything but an empty building. So we could reduce this budget quite a bit if we went ahead and ixnayed that veterinary exam room for now.
Laura, can you, just like you did with me, can you kind of break down how you are providing medical services to the animals that you get?
Yes,
just
sir.
The way we discussed.
Yes, sir. So when we find an animal, if it needs immediate veterinary help, it goes to Doc Bullock's. If it can wait, it goes to VCOP, which is up at the University of Florida. VCOP does our fixing, our vaccines. They don't do any emergency work for us, but if the dog has something wrong with it, say heartworm, they'll pay for that care as well. So anything that's not a sick animal is getting pretty reduced rates up at VCOP. Occasionally we have to go to the emergency services, but we're trying to keep that to the bare minimum. So I know the question came up about RFQing or RFPing the veterinary services we did. We put it on the internet. I called all the vets in the area and nobody was interested in filling out the paperwork or, partnering in that way. But verbally, Levy Animal Clinic has been extremely good to us. They let us come in right away if we have an emergency. And it's never too high anymore. What you see are from using vets last year that were extremely high. Levy Animal Clinic we find is a little bit more fair. So I don't think you're going to see the same vet numbers, prices next year that you saw this year for the next budget.
So what about the spaying, neutering, all that
It's
stuff
all free.
by the University of Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
And all we pay for is gas to get there. So all of that is covered now. So for us to bring a vet in, I just think that we're kind of young for that. We don't need a full-time vet. I hope that we never do. And veterinary part-time is very difficult to find because veterinarians want full-time work. To bring students in to do things like vaccines and stuff, we may be able to do that, but we can't be using the exam room as a storage room to do that. And that right now the exam room is full of stuff. There's no storage at the shelter. There's no closets. There's nothing. So that's where all of our donations, which have been extremely generous from the citizens, that's where they're all sitting right now. We have cages, we have doggy beds, we have toys, and we have food. I don't know what else is in there. Tables, blankets, all the things that people have donated to us are in the exam room right now.
So just one more question, Mr. President, if you don't mind. So I know originally the plan was, at least through Wayne and some other people, the vision was, to stand up a exam room with university students coming down there and doing all their work and stuff like that. So obviously that's never materialized in the sense of the way we envisioned it. And from your discussion with the University of Florida, do you think that they're filling our needs as opposed to bringing students here?
Yes, they're filling all of our needs right now. Students, I from what I understand, they have to do rotations. Everybody does a large animal rotation. Everybody does an exotic rotation. Everybody does a shelter rotation. But we're a very small shelter. And if they did a shelter rotation with us, it doesn't mean that they're going to be doing anything really as far as spays and neuters and stuff. They maybe would be doing vaccinations and exams. So I still don't believe that we need the x-ray machine, the ultrasound. If I'm going to set this up for a vet, going to be set up. It's got to be set up, you know? And those machines are extremely expensive.
Any other questions?
Do we do any lab work at our shelter?
We're not doing anything right now. There's a few things that, because of my past career, I was a biologist. There's some things that we can do in-house, looking at some parasites and things. Not quite set up for that yet, but I can do that in a smaller area than that big exam room. Need a microscope for that, and I think I have going to get one donated.
And we still have to take them to the vet to get a heartworm test.
To get the heartworm test, yes, but VCOP does that before they fix them, right?
Okay.
So they do it before they fix them. They're very, very generous. They really help us out. Like I said, the only thing that would be a problem that VCOP couldn't do would be a surgery on a hurt leg or something, but they have grants for that. So as long as it's not an emergency, a lot of things can get covered. The emergencies are the tough things.
And in the general fund budget, where is the Bronson animal?
It's not in there. I don't know why. I told Stephen about it via email.
Yeah.
Terry said perhaps because it's not guaranteed, it's just an agreement, it's not a contract. He didn't put it in there, but maybe he could answer.
Yeah, but that's around $9,600. It would help you.
Yes.
Maybe a little more than that, but it's around $9,600 a year. Would help your budget if it showed in the revenue side.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Stephen, are you online? I know you're not feeling well.
Yeah. Yeah, excuse me. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, no, it's not in there. I mean, I'll add it for the next version. Laura did email that to me, and I already had the version out. That is something that I missed to put in.
Yeah, it was one thing I didn't see when I was looking in the revenue side. Thank you.
Did we receive the money?
Yes, we've been receiving it monthly.
Okay,
$833.
Yeah, 800 something a month. Yeah. And we are providing the services, so I wanted to make sure it shows because we are expending our money on their animals, so we need to put the revenue in there too. At least I feel like we do. Even, and I don't know whether it's a year to year or a month to month. I can't remember.
The agreement?
Mhm.
It didn't have an end date.
Okay, so I would definitely put it in there. That's just me, but I'm not the finance director.
Ms. Jones, is Operation Catnip, is that just strictly Alachua County?
Not necessarily. They'll help us with traps, and we can bring cats there, but their schedules VCOP gives us a schedule, and we just we tell them what we have, and then we bring them to them. Operation Catnip has a schedule, so if we can't catch the cat that day, we can't go that day. So this is a little bit easier for us. As far as the cats, I know that it's a problem. I talk to citizens a couple times a week about cats. We're going to do a big push when it gets a little bit cooler, not only for us, but for the cats. We're going to try and trap all the colonies that we can. I know that this has been done before. The problem is it wasn't maintained. So now the kittens are back, but we have a very good group of people in the city who know where the cats are, who can trap cats. So we're hoping that we could just trap and talk to VCOP about bringing them up for like a week or two anytime we catch them and just get them all fixed. If it doesn't work with them, we can also talk to Sheltering Hands. They may be able to give us a special day to do that thing, but it would cost a little bit of money. I think they're going to charge us like a regular, I think it's $30 a cat.
They started out at 30 when I started taking our colony up there, but they're up to 50 now.
Yeah.
And they may be less for the shelter.
VCOP can't get enough cats, so they keep telling us, bring more cats, bring
that's
more
good.
cats. It's a tough time right now for us. We have a full shelter, so that's a lot of work. And then to trap a cat, you really got to watch it, when it's 100 degrees outside. You don't want a cat stuck in a trap for very long. So.
I have the best luck catching them at night.
Well, maybe you're going to be on my cat trap.
Yeah,
soon.
man. I can catch them at night. I like fried chicken. And the cat condo, is that
The
anywhere
catios?
in here? Catio. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's just materials. It's really not very expensive to build these things. We got a lot of the wood donated already from another rescue. We just have to buy the fencing to go around it. We have some fencing we need to put up. We need paddocks for these dogs. They need to get out. They can go on walks and that's fine, but for them to actually play and run without being on a leash, they're on concrete. And we don't like it. And if it even gets a little bit wet, it's very slippery. So you got puppies slipping down the concrete. So we do need some grass areas, and we have some bids on that. And then I think that was it for the outside. Oh, and maybe fence the perimeter, but we might just wait until we can get a donation on that. But we've been very good at getting donations lately. So I have a shed that's hopefully going to be donated. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to have to ask for a shed. We have a place for anything.
Get one a good size for all your storage.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Jones?
I do, real quick. Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about the permitting, and you said that the price went down. It's just the price of your expenditures went down as opposed to the price or percentage of the actual permit.
No, yeah, my actual budget went down. So, we only get 5% or something of that big number that contractual services. How much do we get from that? 10% or something? 8%? Most of that isn't even ours. That's going right to the consultant. So my budget went down, but it doesn't really affect us in the long run. Nothing really changed for permitting. I think I put training up a little bit.
So we haven't actually changed the price of what the permits are. It's just that
My
we're not going to
revenue
have
changed.
to do right, but we're not going to have to use supplies that are needed for the permits.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we don't use much. I mean, we just use paper. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Mayor?
I just have a small question. Is on page 14, as I have them here, animal licenses. It says that I'm assuming it is 300% up in the budget.
Yeah, because we've actually been getting them. It's been
We've been getting what, Matt?
we've been getting the dogs licensed in the city. We did a
have
big
been getting people to is
purchase.
This is the income that's
Yeah.
300%. I need to give you some money, don't I?
Probably.
It all started in June, right? With the new license,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm late.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to be sure. I'd asked about it, but I never followed through.
Yeah. So our dog licenses, we did a big push for that recently with we have a Facebook page now. We're much more out there with the animals. Before it was really a dog catcher. So we didn't really have time, that was more code enforcement. So now that we have this whole staff that's very passionate about this animal shelter, there's always flyers going up and people are seeing that they have to license their animals, and the new residents are being told when they open up an account that dogs need a license. It's only $5. It just helps us know who's who in town, because if we catch him down the street and I have a license, it's so much easier to find his home.
All right, Ms. Jones, thank you. You got anything else for us?
If you don't have any more questions. So I'll work with Stephen on reducing this. If you guys are okay with not having the veterinary exam and the room and the veterinarian, I'll work with them on reducing this.
I agree with you. If you're not set up for it, let's bring it back another time.
Yeah, once you're ready, that's when we need to do it.
Yeah, I would say let's get really good at running our shelter, and we've got room to grow, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's in good hands.
Thank you.
All right. Nothing else. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Item 3, presentation by Finance Director Stephen Blue.
Okay, hopefully you guys can still hear me. I am going to do a brief presentation. I did include a lot of the reference slides for you in this deck, but I'm only going to cover a couple things, really focusing on what changed since the first workshop. The rest of them are there if we need them, if there are questions about different assumptions that were included in the budget. I wanted to make sure we had those available, but I'm going to spend most of the time here just kind of talking about the changes, and what it really means to the overall budget. So if we can start on, well, you know what, before I do that, let's take a quick look at the budget calendar just to make sure we're kind of all set for what the next steps are. That's slide 3. Okay. So after today, kind of the next step will be on September 10th, and at 5:30 p.m. And I believe that is a regular meeting as well. That would be your first public hearing on the budget. There are 2 for every year. There's 2, and this is going to be the first one. And again, I've got some of those other dates there just as reminders that we're not allowed to have our public hearing on the same day as the school board or as the county commission. So the first one will be on September 10th, and then you will be adopting a tentative millage rate as well as a tentative budget. After that, we will do special advertising for the second public hearing, which is scheduled for September 24th at 5:30 p.m. And that 24th would be the final and kind of last step for the commission to adopt their official budget for next year. Okay, so with that in mind, the next slide, I've noted changes, and really coming out of the first workshop, the biggest or the heaviest lifting that we had to do was kind of to recalibrate the general fund a little bit based on our discussions. And so a lot of these bullet points really affect the general fund the most, although as we get through them, you'll note they also have some positive effect on a couple of the other funds. So I'll just kind of go through them. The first thing I'll mention is that every year, and it usually happens the same time in between our first and second workshop, the state releases estimates on all of the intergovernmental revenue, communication tax, sales tax, fuel tax, all of those, intergovernmental revenue. They do fancy estimates for us, and then based on that, I make adjustments to the budget. Sometimes I have to adjust it a little bit down. Luckily, this time I was able to add a little bit of revenue into the general fund based on their estimates, which is always, a helpful thing. The other thing I did, and we briefly talked about this in a couple meetings and stuff, is based on the fire loan, I did adjust the debt service to make sure that there was plenty to cover what would be their principal and interest payments. I know I can't remember who asked that question in one of the prior meetings. I don't think I was after the workshop, but yes, I have made sure that we've got 100% of what would be principal and interest on that new loan is in there. We talked about at the first workshop, there were at that time 2 police vehicles, and both of those police vehicles were unfunded at that time and would require, in that first version, actually another loan to be able to purchase those based on the change in the USDA grant. In this version, we've been able to, with some of the other changes that we did, personnel and different things, we were able to include only 1 vehicle. But that vehicle is now a part of your base budget, meaning that there's no loan required for it. There's no grants assumed for it. It's now being covered, 100% within the revenues of the current year, not using fund balance either. So, if, in other words, and the reason why I wanted to do it this way or present it this way is that moving forward, if there is no additional grants, then you're going to need to be able to fund one vehicle at a minimum. I know the chief wants two, but at the minimum, you're going to be able to have to fund at least one, or else you'll get behind in your fleet management. So this version of the budget has one vehicle, no special funding for it. It's basically being handled within the general fund. So again, certainly can have more discussions on that. I know the chief is going to want to, if there's any other creative ways to get to keep that fleet program moving in a positive direction. But at the minimum, there's now one in there. All of the insurance premiums that we talked about that were at the time estimates, contingency amounts, we got better numbers both for health insurance, better numbers for auto, property. All of those insurance numbers came in, and to our benefit, and luckily, all of them came in lower than the contingency amount that was put in the first version. As a result of that, I was able to reduce the transfer. And if you remember, we had talked about the reason why the transfer was increased was solely to cover these increases of what we call uncontrollable spending. Otherwise, we were not really wanting to increase that transfer. As a result of the reduction in these estimates, and again, these premiums are going to help each of the funds, but in the general fund in particular, we were able to lower the transfer by $60,000 as a result of this, which is certainly a positive to be able to obviously not have to keep increasing that transfer, which certainly helps the utility fund. And then also have, being able to keep the general fund closer to not having to have, $1.5 million or more, a $1.6 million transfer. It's now 1.54. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier with the vehicle, now the loan proceeds has been reduced from 620,000 down to 460, which again, less debt is always better. So from there, kind of moving to page 5 and just giving you again a brief look at the overall picture of where the budget is. So now, based on these changes, the budget is about 13.7% higher. Last time it was at 14.3. Capital has been lowered to 3.5%. Again, before it was 3.8. So in general, again, these changes have helped basically take some more pressure off of the general fund and then provide some more potential reserves for the utility fund, which was a secondary priority in this budget. So within these two versions, moving to version 2 here of the budget, we have been, for the most part, been able to accomplish what we set out from the first workshop. With that in mind, obviously, this is another workshop for you to go through whatever you would like to talk about. There's no, constraints on making changes, as we just talked about. We'll take a look at the animal shelter, make those adjustments. I'll take a look at that revenue. But you are more than welcome to look at any category, any section, any department, any fund as you would like, and make any changes. And what we'll do is we'll bring back a third version for your first public hearing in September, and then from there you take a look at it and go. And with that, I'll end my presentation.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Blue.
Do not.
So, as you know, Stephen and I have been working on, and Stephen, you may have to help me out with this while I'm going through it. We've been working on the water and wastewater usage rate chart, and trying to come up with a way that we can maybe restructure that to, lower some of the costs to the citizens in the commercial side of the house. And so we sent some numbers to Stephen in an Excel format, and he and I talked. And Stephen, I'm assuming these numbers are on the tier 3 structure that we talked about.
Yes, for water, it basically after tier 3 stops.
Okay.
Meaning tiers 3, 4, and 5 are all the same. And again, for those of you who don't spend a ton of time with the water bills, each water bill's got a base rate, and we're not really discussing base rates. And then depending upon how many gallons of water is used, it runs through a tiered system. The new rates that started in January 1st had a 5 unique tiers that built up. So obviously, as you got up into those upper tiers, that price went up. And so what we ran is some scenarios in this particular scenario that says, okay, I'm going to stop at tier 3, and tier 3, 4, and 5 are now going to be the same. And what does that do? What does that kind of do to the revenue on an annual basis with, making some assumptions? The analysis I did was based on the first 7 months. So it's pretty good to see, a whole 7 months worth of revenue to run it off of. And then from there, I just kind of straight lined it across to get to 12 months.
So do you want
no, I was just going to say the end result of that is about $85,000 to $90,000 of reduced revenue for the water portion of the budget based on that one particular scenario.
And then the sewer?
The sewer, what we did is the scenario I ran, and look, we can, we built this workbook so that we can run multiple scenarios as we get time to. But in this particular one, pretty sure what we did was I gave the first 5,000 gallons of sewer free. Originally for commercial, they paid starting at 0. And so given that first 5,000 kind of matched up, I believe, with the residential. And that was a little bit less at about annually of about, I think, between 45 to 50 was the short, change in revenue. It's called a change in revenue, a reduction in the sewer department. So
I looked at the Excel spreadsheets, and obviously it was pretty complicated for me. So on the wastewater spreadsheet, was there any relief in the tiers based on these numbers?
No, not in that scenario. I mean, I can keep running scenarios if we want to give even more relief. The sewer budget was actually looking pretty solid even after this change. The water is not quite there yet. It would have a harder hit on the water, but no, that does not give any other relief in tiers.
Okay. So, and I think what we were looking for, at least what I envisioned being tasked to do or to look at, was, what would this mean to our operational costs and to our current budget? The primary drive for me has always been to make sure our enterprise funds, at the very minimum, operate at least breaking even. You got to break even. There's no sense in having it, So in this particular case, what I was looking for was, if we made some changes to these rates, and Stephen, also talking to you again, how far could we go without getting into that operational level where we're not making a penny, we're losing money, or we're barely breaking even. And as you know, one of the driving forces between or trying to do or put in the higher rate for the water, was so we could really improve on a lot of our capital projects. But, I'm gonna be honest with you, our capital projects needs are so great. We will never get there by the usage. I mean, we have to get there the way we're going through SRF loans, through grants, through all the things we do with Wright Pierce and everybody else is the way that we get to getting our projects done, because this is simply a drop in the bucket. I mean, I can't get anywhere on $85,000. Not without the capital.
President Cox.
3 pumps go bad, and I've spent that money. So my question is to the city council, and so Stephen can maybe talk a little bit too, in case you have any questions to him, is what direction do you want me to move in this particular situation? Would you like us to come back with?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor has a question.
Yes, it's probably directed at you, Stephen. You said there was $85,000 to $90,000 loss of revenue for not having tier 4 and 5. How many
Correct.
people? How many people have tier 4 and 5 bills?
Hang on, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Hang on, Stephen.
So what do you own?
I'm just trying to do some simple mathematics here and see how many people get to divide up $90,000.
And to tag along with that, I hear that we're strictly going, or what it sounds like, going toward commercial reductions. I would also, if at all possible, like to reduce the residential, even if it's a little bit.
So I will tell you this: there's 35 businesses in Williston that have our services that are using 15,000 gallons of water or more.
35, you say?
I'm not going to try to do that math. What is 35? 90,000 divided by 35,
And then by 12.
and then by 12.
Yeah, because they get it every month. A monthly reduction.
Stephen, you got
Thank
a clue?
So 30, you want to repeat that for me, Mayor?
I just want to know how many people and how much those people are paying to make that $90,000. There's
About
35
per month.
people. They're
Yeah.
over a year's time.
Yeah. It's $214 a month.
Yeah. So
Per person.
it's also dependent on business.
Yes,
So-
I understand, but if
Yeah.
we're going to generalize, I'm just trying to generally understand what it is you're trying to do. That's all.
And right now, I think we're strangling them.
Ma'am?
I think we're strangling some people.
Yes, there reaches a point where their business can't be
Yeah.
profitable.
Exactly. And they can't charge enough to get the money back.
Yeah.
Between the car washes and the laundromats.
But in the same flip side of that coin, aren't we doing the same thing to the city? If we,
You mean the
Yeah.
residents?
the residents,
Yes, that's
but
why I brought that
the
up.
businesses,
Yeah.
because we've worked hard to try to work towards getting breaking even, at least. And after all, this is a business. So
And we do need to more than break even to keep the system running. I know that's the whole point and
Right.
why we did it to begin with.
it's like we
But we
We-
don't need to gouge.
There will be unknown
Yeah.
costs ahead.
I mean, we go to the grocery store. It's more money for us. It's all the way around. Where they say groceries, if you a year ago, $250. In the same ones now, it's like $350 for the same ones. Okay.
Sure. If you have to come to the podium.
Yes,
we'll-
and please state your name and your residence.
And it doesn't look like it's on. If you'll push the button to turn the red light on.
Sure.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I don't do this very often, guys, so I'm not voting for him. But I own the laundromat. Devastating.
I'm sorry. Can I get your name, please,
Scott.
sir? Last name?
Prince, P-R-I-N-S. So, like, when you talk about inflation, I mean, I get it. Basically, an even playing field is every business, the water rates went up. I get it. You got to raise money. But everybody's got a bathroom and a mop set. Meter that on me, we're fair. But I go through 200, 300,000 gallons of water. I'm in that high tier. I'm still getting control of it. But on the other side of the coin, it's also for the less fortunate. People then would have to drive to Gainesville. They can't afford my rates, and I haven't gone up the way I should. I'm gonna have to go up it. They're walking in the building, they're walking out. And I'm gonna have to go up again to stay afloat. It's gonna put us under. So, and then to break it down, like water bills, it's hard to understand the volume. So when you're going through this much, every city's about $12 per thousand, if you do the math. Some are as low as 8. Williston was already 14. So now we're going to $28 per 1,000 gallons of water.
Don't believe so.
I can't
I
handle
mean,
it.
they can give you the true numbers, but
Oh, I got the numbers. I got all the, Why don't you step in? I don't do this very often, so it's a little hard.
I just kind of did a summary of it. Good evening, by the way. Thanks for listening to us.
In
We
your
own the
name?
local laundromat.
Your-
My name is Kim Prince. I'm his wife. We own the local laundromat here in Williston. Our business is based on water. It's not just a little bit. It's business. At the beginning of this year, the city more than doubled our water rates. So it didn't just go up; it more than doubled. We were never notified in advance about this increase. The laundry does not make enough to cover this extra cost, and if this continues, it will put us out of business. The laundry has been there for decades, and the community depends on it. We were forced to go up on our prices, but that doesn't even begin to cover the water costs. Because we raised our prices, now some of our customers drive to different cities to do their laundries, and this has also affected us. This water rate increase isn't just hurting our business, it's hurting the community. We hear it from the people that come in. So we would really appreciate anything you can do to help us out. Thank you.
So to give you an idea of the kind of water usage they're using, now I have 2 bills. One says laundromat, Triangle Laundry, during 1 month is 92,000 gallons. And the other is another bill, which is 120,300 gallons. I'm not sure which one's the difference, because both of them say dry. One says laundry, one says dry cleaner. So you're, looking at this, you're telling me you're using over 200,000 gallons of water.
are you talking about it a whole year? Oh, and not a month. Okay. All right, we thought you were talking per month.
This is, according to Selena, per month. This is
Yeah,
this
but not
is the bill.
200,000. It's 92.
No, this is from April 1st to April the 30th. They got 2 bills, and one of them here, according to Selena's spreadsheet, was the laundromat at 57 Northeast 6th Boulevard, which used 92,000 gallons.
Yep.
And then the dry cleaning at 57 Northeast 6th Boulevard used 120,300 gallons just over that 1 month.
So how is the dry cleaning using water at all?
I always wondered that exact thing.
Because you
See
send
what-
it out.
We could get you to come back up.
Okay, so the meter's going to both, the water's going to both meters, even though it's got that name on it. Gotcha.
That shows businesses declining.
What about your cost of goods, your detergents?
It's because we record it and it has to be recorded.
Oh, I understand. But we also provide a service for the poor. I've always kept my rates low, and it's a double whammy. I kind of raised my rates where I should have been. That's what you're being nice, I guess. But now the increase in the water and everything else, this business can't handle it. It just simply cannot. When you go to the next town, it's half the price. So, like that.
When was the last time our water rates prior to this were raised?
Maybe 12 years
Like
ago. Let
12
y'all
years.
know.
15.
15.
2015.
15 years.
Oh, 15 years. Excuse me. Thank you.
But none of the other cities have. A double the rate, like if we went up a little bit over a period of time, we could handle it. And then we honestly didn't know. I mean, that Delta Salina, it was a bad timing. The bill came in, it was double.
Do you live in the area?
No, they don't.
Well, that's why you didn't know, because we've done public hearings
Yeah, no.
on everything. I think we did 3 on the water and sewer rates.
It was March when I went in.
Yeah.
The meter's wrong. It's like, no, they doubled the rates. No, they didn't. Yeah, you did.
And I don't think the Friends are coming into this meeting in the dark. We've had conversations. We've told you our side of the story and stuff. And not that it helps any, but I think y'all generally have an idea of the reason why the rates went up and why. If you did, I apologize if you didn't. But I'm pretty sure we had this conversation. Most everybody I do sat down with and go through the whole process of it's been 15 years. If we had all that capital sitting back there, we would be able to probably not raise these rates, or there have been a small increase every year. This would be an easy small increase. So, but I'm not trying to drop you off the podium. You can stay there if you want to,
But then saying that comparative to the other cities, they're all $10, $12 per 1,000 gallons.
Did you check Ocala? Because I know they're higher.
I'm not in Ocala. Just dealing with who I deal with.
Yeah.
You guys were 14. Now you might as well say 27. That's a lot to hit.
Why would you say 27? Where are you getting that?
If you break down the water bill,
'cause you have
of course,
2 meters.
my last year's bill divided by 1,000 gallons. That's without taxes. That's what it is.
Yeah. What cities are those, Mr. Prince?
All around. Let's see. Chiefland, Alachua, Hawthorne, Melrose. Even, GRU.
Mr. Bartlett?
So if you guys remember our Florida Rural Water, which Melrose and Chiefland and Hawthorne, all the cities he just mentioned are part of that. They're in the process of raising those rates. They're in rate studies as well. They're in critical failure on a lot of their systems as well. But if you go through and you talk about the cities in the last 2 or 3 years through Florida Rural Water that have done their studies, and remember, Florida Rural Water is a nonprofit across the state. There's a couple driving forces behind the rate increases. One is we're all behind on capital. The council knows that. I'm not without compassion. I mean, everybody in the water division is not without compassion. But the issue is that Florida's recommendations through DEP, one of their driving forces is the influx of population. So just a couple weeks ago, we were at the Florida Rural Water Annual Conference, and one of the things that they're pushing, DEP is pushing, is a reduction in water consumption. So they want towns to reduce. Our consumptive use permit, what we call our CUP permit, they're making us reduce that. As people are moving into our town, they actually want us to use less water. We get credit through the SRF program. Terry can attest to this with the documentation we've been passing back and forth with SRF as they consider us for a loan for these capital needs that he just addressed. We have to reduce the amount of water. And one of the ways that DEP requires you to do that is by raising of rates, because it makes people contemplate reducing the water load that they have. The tiers are directly a result of that. And so, I'm not telling council to make any decision of any kind. I'm just explaining to you guys, if you recall in the workshops, why it was that was done. Bronson had a much higher increase than we did. If you compare us to GRU, if you compare us to Ocala, if you compare us to markets that had a consumer price index increase over the last 10 years, we are far below the average in the state of Florida. So yes, there's anomalies. There are towns that are smaller than us. I mean, you can go to McIntosh and Micanopy that operate a water plant. Their rates are extremely low, but they have one plant and they have one worker for the entire city. So, I mean, it's just comparative in the cost. Also, when you break down the bill, he is correct in what he's saying about the bill as cost. But the problem is he's forgetting to break out base cost, what we call our base meter charge, and then our consumptive rate. So the base charge is a fixed cost. That's what it costs to run the system, run the plants. The consumptive rate is a totally separate matter. So if you remove the base rate out of residential and commercial rates, and you only talk about the consumptive rate, the number that he gave of 28 per thousand is not accurate.
And then Bronson Laundromat's out of business. They closed. So that's going to happen all over. I got a lot to say, but it's just hard to come up with. Is there another way to like deal with somebody without coming to these meetings?
That man right there. Yeah, that's it. And the only way we can talk with each other is in the sunshine, which means in the meeting.
Right.
Right. He runs the day to day. We just set policy.
And I understand you guys got to go up, but on the people that consume water like us, like I mentioned, anybody with a business and a bathroom, monitor mine. I'll double the rate on that.
Yeah,
but how I make my living, in a lot of ways.
Unfortunately, as Mr. Barber said, what rural water is telling us to do is charge more for people who use more.
Oh, I know.
Now, we've done that now for 7 months, and we're trying to bring it down. You know, you've heard us talk about trying to bring it down.
I mean, you should have just sent a note, close your business in 5 months. You know,
Yeah.
not trying to
Well, I can tell you, I have a small business that is water-based also. I have no idea if it's on my list. I don't know what 35 are on the list, but I'm a water-based business too. And somebody asked me the other day, why aren't you down here complaining about your water bill? And I said, because I make money off that water.
Yeah, in business.
And I'm still making money off that water, so I'm not going to complain about it. If it was my house and I had that big a bill, I would have a problem because I don't have revenue coming in to cover it. But I do have a water-based business that has a large bill. Your bill was probably more than mine. My entire bill last month was $1,700. But the majority of that was electric because it uses electric and it uses
my
water.
water alone is $3,500, just water without taxes. So the other problem too is people can't afford it, so they're killing my equipment. People are shoving so much clothes in and setting their kid on the lid to hold it down, and I got breakdowns. I mean, I got breakdowns like you wouldn't believe. It is just really killing me. So I asked for your help.
So
you know? There should be another tier system for.
Yeah, if I can just point out here, I feel for the businessman.
Yes.
Sure.
But my prime concern is if the businessman goes out of business, the citizens won't have any place to do their water.
That's correct.
That water is going to be consumed, whether it is consumed by the person at home with a washing machine or at his business. You got to wash your clothes unless we're going back to the scrubbing can, and I don't think many of us want to do that. So the water's got to be consumed, and what we're talking about here is manipulating around where the water is being consumed at. And I am very concerned. I just want to go on the record. I'm very concerned about if our actions are putting the resources that the people need to do their laundry out of business. I'm concerned, and I hope you are too. Thank you.
But I think we will be back here at this time next year discussing the same thing, because we can't continue to keep our rates low and not have any increases. Like I said, last one was 15.
I think we have a CPI now, if I remember right.
Yep, and I feel sorry for you. I understand it. You know, we've at home, we've had to adjust our lifestyle.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's
But
not
I mean-
something we can do tonight either, but we can put it on the next agenda. But
yeah, I just wanted to bring it up during the budget workshop
Absolutely.
so everybody understands that, I know that the staff has done a good job of coming in and keeping their budgets low, and I do appreciate that. It's made the process a lot easier. But we all need to understand if we do this, what the effect will be if we lower, you know, if we take this loss on the revenue, it's got to be just above where I'm breaking even. And so that's something we're still working on, Stephen. But that the point was bring it out in the open, talk about it. I know the Friends have dealt with me quite a bit on this. So.
My question is, where does what Mr. Bloom and Terry are telling us that could the direction that we potentially could go, combining those tiers, intersect with what Mr. Barber is telling us about what our requirements are from state government?
So under Terry's direction, we did get Florida Rural Water involved again. We explained the problems that we were having with the commercial and the residential. They've requested quite a bit of data from Selena and from Stephen, which that data has been provided. Andrew Green, which is the consultant with Florida Rural Water, this is what he handles, what they call their water tracker system, where they track, usage rates and comparative things. They're working on some recommendations for us, and they'll come back with those recommendations, and then Stephen can plug those numbers in specifically and give you guys an idea of where that exact line is for you guys to make a better educated decision. Andrew got all that information, I believe, about a week and a half ago, the last bit of it from Stephen, and he's saying that by the end of this month, they should be able to give us some sort of comparative chart on some of that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to address the difference that I don't take salary from my business either. I'm a horse trainer. When hay prices go up, I have to keep feeding the horses, so I totally feel your pain. And I hope that maybe this will give us some better math to kind of figure out where that line is. And I know that time is of the essence, but we can only move at the speed at which all the numbers come together. So I just want to say,
It's true. In business, I can double, but you got the poorest of the poor that need this business. And where are they going to live? And don't you guys get funding for? Isn't there something that comes in, or you lose that?
It's those funding people that told us to raise the rates, or they would not give us a loan.
What funding?
That's rural water. They're the ones.
We were just Terry. We've been speaking with Terry, and he had said that they were hoping to create a separate tier for those businesses that were solely based on water. And that is what our hope is, that we can.
That's what he's talking about.
We're not asking to go back to where we were before. We understand that's not realistic, and they haven't been raised over 15 years. We just would like to be at a different tier where it's literally going to put us out of it.
But you are double compared to that house. And the other guy.
That's just because they're behind.
He just built a new store 15 miles from mine, and people they're just blowing by. They're headed to their grocery. Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just so you know, we can't, even if the council wanted to, it's not on our agenda. Government moves slower than business, and they will be looking at it while I've heard from them, but we can't make any changes tonight. This is a budget. Unfortunately, that's the way the world works.
We can't hang in there.
I hope we can hang in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I would also, as I mentioned, like to look at residential, even if it's just a little bit.
Mr. Barber?
So where we're helping out residential, Terry and I've talked about it, we're focusing Florida Rural Water on potable versus non-potable. So what's creating the problem with residential rates are those that don't have irrigation meters and are doing lawns and things of that nature, pools. And if we can reestablish a new tier rate for the irrigation, that's much reduced because that's going right back in the water table, and that's very defendable to Florida Rural Water and DEP. That's where we can see the majority of those savings. That's part of the things that Andrew will bring back, Mr. Green from Florida Rural Water, and that should greatly reduce the majority of residential rates. Is that extra? It's that irrigation added on to that regular water they're using in their house that's causing and compounding the issue.
So are you going to make them get an irrigation meter?
Yes, ma'am. And
Yeah,
that helps us because that's how we track it. And
yeah, but it's very expensive.
Well, it's what it costs.
And most people don't have that money to go get one.
When that's why we're arranging payment plans for people. That's another policy Terry set in place, was to be able to help them out and arrange that payment over 12 months of time. And the savings that they're going to get, it's basically like keeping the same bill to pay it, and then after year one, when they pay it off, they're making a profit basically.
I had a neighbor who talked about doing that. He was saying about the water prices and everything, and he says, we water our lawn. And I said, well, go up to the city, talk to them about an irrigation. I said, they can do it on, talk to them about a payment thing, stuff like that. And he said, I like our yard. And so they're willing to take and do that. I think if we were to make a big push, I think we could get a lot of people over on that irrigation.
And I think the people who can have irrigation in their yard can usually afford an irrigation meter. But it's the person who has a $65 or an $80 water bill that doesn't have the money. And that's not going to help them because they're not irrigating, but they still have a $65 to $85 water bill added to their electric and their garbage and all that. Those are the people I'm trying to just give a little $15 or $20 break to.
And Ms. Jones, I get exactly what you're saying. I understand that completely. The issue that the city has is that as we study out the SRF and we go into talking about capital needs, which Terry admitted, we're never going to pay for ourselves.
Right.
The way to get there is to understand that DEP's recommendations is that where most of their money is their base rate. Has nothing to do with consumption.
Right.
You've got to, DEP wants a water system for the plant, for the distribution lines, and putting away capital. They want that base rate because in a recession and things of that nature, which has been the problem in the past, you don't make money off of a consumable rate. People will reduce it based on the economy. So that base rate, if no one turns on the water, if no one turns on the electric, if no one turns on the gas, you still have to maintain all those lines and all those plants. So the majority of their bill is their base rate. It's not a consumption problem. And unfortunately, the base rate, you guys only adopted about 50% of the 100% that Florida Rural Water came in and asked for.
I know they wanted it to be a lot higher than we did.
So, I mean, we
But
the
it's
staff
still
and everybody
killing
has
people.
really tried to take steps to reduce that burden.
Yeah.
And again, if you make comparative rates to the cities that are around us, we are still much lower than other places.
I know, but I help people almost every day in the job that I have, help them pay their utility bills. They're not all the city of Williston, but when their sewer bill is as much as their electric bill, it's really sad. And sometimes y'all can go figure it out. You can find out why it's so bad. They've got a leak somewhere. And sometimes I call and I say, can you go check this person's house? Because I know that's what they need. But even that base rate of that, I know you're right, that $65, $80 rate is their base rate. It's not their consumption. And a lot of people aren't going over the consumption because they are cutting it down. So they're not going over the 5,000.
Yes, ma'am. So the biggest problem that we have is the 30-day checks on meters. That's the biggest problem with customer relations. We are going from, in the one bill that Terry mentioned, April 1st to April 30th. And let's say, hypothetically, Ms. Hines, you had a leak in your yard.
Yeah.
We're not going to discover that if that leak were to happen the 2nd of April. We're not going to discover it until 29 days later. So wherein the problem lies is the fact that we haven't updated our systems like other towns with AMI, that advanced metering.
You let her in.
Because what would happen is we would get a notification, and so would the customer, within 24 hours of that anomaly.
Yeah.
They would know that there's a leak. So there wouldn't be a chance for that increase in that bill to the rate that it is. Unfortunately, once it goes through that meter, the way that the ordinances were allowing Jonathan and Terry is they can go in and say, look, you've proved to us there was a leak. You've proved to us you fixed it. Either you've hired a plumber or you've bought the parts at Ace. We already at that point reduced the sewer down to the 5,000, which is free for the resident. Then we go in and we reduce all the tiers and only bill. We have to still bill the consumption, but we only bill it at tier 1 rate. So anytime that we find any of those issues, we're giving them a massive drop. I mean, Selena and I have done math. People have gone from $800 bills down to $200 bills because they've proven there was a leak. We reduced the sewer. We reduced the water to tier 1, and that much of the bill can evaporate just from doing that. And we do that. We actively do that right now.
Yeah, because we have irrigation, and when we had no rain, I made that decision. We weren't running it. I said, well, we're going to hold out until we get rain. Now my yard looks nice. But, that's a decision that the homeowner needs to make.
And I'm talking about the base rate people that don't have the money to even pay the base rate. Those are the people that I'm helping every day. I mean, probably 10 people this month alone.
So I would keep in mind that the only thing that I can change by resolution is simply the usage rate price. So nothing else can be changed. I mean, base rates can't be changed. Nothing. It's just simply the usage rate and the tiering system, and that's what it is. So that's how I tackle it. I don't think, Mr. Mayor, with trying to do the simple math, sometimes that's the only math I can do too. But, so that's why Steven's got this big long spreadsheet that I don't understand. But the bottom line is really there's 3 or 4 businesses in town that do have extremely high. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get there. And I know from talking to Steven, and I was getting ready to say this until you said a $20 cut in their bill, that their residential rate, doing the same thing for them, returns such little back to the city that, doesn't help. It really doesn't. So until you said $20.
I started to say you really can't. If you can't change the base rate, because that's where most of these people, it's where most of these people are.
Yeah, this is the only thing that I can do under the current ordinance.
And let's do it.
This was a 3-step process. Legal, Florida Rural Water, Stephen giving me the numbers for 6 or 7 months, him looking at it. And so, unfortunately, this has taken 7 months to do. And it is what it is. So, if I can't make a decision on a 1-month window, which is what I've tried to explain to the people that have been talking to me, but I have to have 6 months worth of data to say, yes, I think we will.
But now we're waiting on them.
Yes, ma'am. And now that Florida Rural Water has all their information, Andrew Green will be getting back to us hopefully by the end of this month, and we'll have the information that we need.
Yeah, because these people, if they get another utility bill, it's just another one that hits them in the face.
Well, we can call Andrew and see what some of his preliminary findings are. We can come back to y'all with a suggestion of where you would like us to be, and then we can go from there. I can do it by resolution. So,
is there assistance available for people under a certain income bracket through the city or the state?
Only so much.
Yeah.
Is that something that we could explore further?
Well, not for a business.
Right. No, I'm talking about
but
residents.
For the community activists, or not activists, but what's the name of it? I never remember. Community Action does a wonderful job of helping our citizens, but it only goes so far.
I started to say they've been out of money for months.
Yeah, and then the churches.
It's the churches that are doing it now. And if I've already helped them within a year, I send them to another church. If they've helped them within a year, they send them to my church. Unfortunately, the bills have gotten so high that we're both doing it at the same time. We're both having to help.
Yep. Some will bounce from church to church.
I keep a spreadsheet. And they're not allowed to come once a year. And the same with the other church.
Do anything that they can.
Right.
I don't consider that they're being mean.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Like your church, I've helped several people out. I was talking that the chief had already helped them, and the action group had helped them, and everybody else. But the fact is,
I had helped them too. Same group, same people.
Are desperate.
Yeah.
The economy. We're not in a depression, I'm told. We're not in a recession, I hear. But people hurt.
Yes, they are.
Anybody else have any signs? All right. Item 4, review of revised budget. Mr. Bloom. Which pretty much already did.
That's what we've been doing. Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't even see her.
Yeah, she might want to All right, public participation. This is your opportunity to address the council. At this time, anyone in the audience can come to the podium and speak for 5 minutes.
Kind of coming up behind
Please
eight ball,
state your
I
name.
feel like Jacqueline Appling.
Where you from?
Williston.
Welcome.
Just had 2 questions. I was hoping I was able to get up and say this earlier. I asked these 2 questions before the budget and all that information. That was just so. Hopefully, this doesn't put a bigger burden on anybody's budget. But I think I need the question to go up. The question is, I've asked this in the past about the possibility of what needs to happen to get a sign that you enter "Welcome to Williston" off of 27. I mentioned to a couple people about that sign and having it there. I think I'm really concerned now because I enter Williston off of 27, and school has started, and I have been so concerned and so nervous with the speed that people pass me coming on 27, entering Williston. And that speed goes until they go across the railroad track. With school starting, I watch school buses struggle to get on those roads in the morning. Because people that don't live in Williston don't know that they're in Williston for some reason. I don't know. But I'm just concerned, and that's why I feel like Mike or whoever can help me with finding out what needs to happen. Have a sign put out there that says Williston. It's right in that 4-Fort Mill BP station. So that maybe people will realize they are entering a little town, Williston. I slow down, and like I said, I leave at 6 o'clock in the morning going to Gainesville, and people pass me when that flashing school sign was out, when the middle school area was out there. It made people aware that there were school, but I've seen families beside the road trying to cross that road, school buses, and people just zoom right past me, just like they don't slow down until they go across the railroad track and get near. I would probably say almost Family Dollar, where the light's at. And it's really concerning and forceful started. I just wanted to find out what needs to happen to maybe get something there genuine in Williston. And also maybe get some patrolling out there in the morning. Time's changing. So people will be moving around when it's dark and the buses are out there really early before something happens. I mean, I was out this morning and there was a bus that sat there 10, 15 minutes just trying to get across that road to go to pick the students up on the other side. So those were my 2 questions to find that proper. And I think someone told me to speak to Donald about it. If it was in the budget, I know a lot went on with the budget. That's fine. And
But
also I want to talk to Mike about getting patrolling out there in the morning.
Yes, sir. So it's not in the budget for signs right now at this current time, but community development is going after a grant that we have a good shot for. And one of the ideas was, instead of just putting one big giant sign that costs thousands and thousands of dollars on the east and west border, we instead had an idea to buy a lot of signs and work with DOT so that, let's say you're down on 27 in Blythton, it says Williston ahead so many miles. If you're on 318 at 75, it says Williston so many miles ahead, and it has an arrow. If you're on 121, so basically surrounding the entire community, and so many miles out at certain critical intersections, having a lot of signs that are DOT approved and placed that tell people, hey, you're coming toward Williston and it's this far. So it kind of gives them a chance to know that they're headed toward the town. And then finally, a very inexpensive sign, basically like a regular street sign that's a decent size, but a metal sign that would be on the east and the west border that said, welcome to Williston. Problem has been, with the signs that the CRA and the chamber and all of them got into. I mean, they're $20,000 and $30,000 and things like that. So we just thought going out further and kind of directing people and letting them know, there's a destination ahead from all the different directions was probably a better approach to letting people know that they were in our town. And again, that's a grant, so if we get it, it would all be paid for.
Great. That's great.
I think that's good. That's a good idea. But I also think that we still should look towards the future to actually putting a larger, nicer sign out as well.
So we
Ms.
brought it to the CRA a few months ago, and there was a misunderstanding that they had to do projects only in their districts. They have a primary district and a secondary district. Well, we reread the plan, and the plan says, "Welcome to Williston signs." So we're probably going to. We're very busy right now with the parking lot, but we're probably going to RFP this because the signs that we got here were extremely expensive for what we got. So we need to do this because this is being promoted by the Levy County Tourism, and they're going to be helping us with the price for that. And then in the, probably in the next year or so, you'll have "Welcome to Williston" signs. They don't have to be in the district. We can put them out on the city limits. But we don't want to spend $50,000 on signs. So we're trying to do it as economically as possible.
Not if you can help it. And the one that's down here is also, it was half paid for by the Chamber of Commerce.
The chamber paid for.
It was their
We
design.
got 2 for 1, kind of. We paid the CRA paid for the sign at Heritage Park, and they paid for the one at the airport, and we kind of just worked together to get those 2 done. Which I think that they will probably help us with the next one as well. But we just don't want to spend that kind of money again because it's more than that, because this was 3 years ago now. So now if it was a $10,000 sign, now it's going to be a $13,000 sign, and we think we can do better. So
I think their initial bid was $18,000, and by the time they got it up, it was more like $20,000. Because I remember hearing the bid.
And you guys know me, I'm a very conservative person. I recycle and reuse the adventure, so it's not about, I'm not that. Just making people aware. I mean, I've seen one on 121 coming in. I think Whitehurst Park that says they have one that's like a it's making people aware and find out for Mike when can we get. I mean, you just don't want a fatality happen. Just if we can just do anything to slow people down.
And Miss Jackie, we just so you know, we do a lot of traffic on that area. We can't catch them all.
No, I understand.
But we do have a lot of traffic detail in that area. I can tell you I have one also write 100 tickets a month. So we are out there. We are trying to slow people down and educate them on the speed of coming to Williston. Other than that, we're just out there beating the bushes, trying to catch as many as we can.
The new school year just started, so just a new thing. Just getting people to, be aware.
Yep.
Okay.
We hope when they see those flashing lights, they become aware, but still get some of them that still drive by.
Maybe we can ask them to put the lights back up.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, just anything to make them aware. Just,
I said maybe we could ask DOT to put some lights back up. I mean, even if it's closer in, as they're approaching, just tell them we're having issues. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We should have left them up there.
So that maybe, like I said, school
I guess
started,
DOT took them down, huh?
Want to keep our children.
I would think that
Exhibit
flashing
number 9 in
lights
school?
would do 10 times what the sign would.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's whatever needs to happen.
And even if it says approaching school zone. Because
When
you're
it
not
was
there.
people respected that. So.
Right.
But there, I was
No,
gonna
but
say,
it's
there's no
it
school
sort of
zone there
it sort of starts at Main Street.
Doesn't have to have a school zone to get flashing lights.
Well, especially if you back up and you say approaching school zone. You don't have to say school zone. Say approaching school zone.
Because they slow down when you see the event sign out there. When you put the event, there's an event happening in Williston, people slow down when they see that sign. It's flashing. I've noticed that because I'm coming into town. I come on, yeah.
Not me. I
So
hurry
I'm
up
just
to the
saying,
event.
if you live here, you're familiar with the area. People just like going to work or wherever they're trying to get to. Nowhere. So we don't want our kids, our families, and stuff to do that.
Yeah, and we'll stay on top of it, but we have a lot of traffic that comes through Williston
Oh, yes,
now.
I know. We're like
a
the
lot of
Maori.
traffic. Yeah, it has increased tremendously.
I creep sometime to get them to slow down behind me because it's it's like you can't push me off the road, and then they realize they are in town once they get there. Those are my questions. Thank you all for listening.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Mills, anybody online? No? Anybody else from the public want to speak? All right. Please state your name, where you're from.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael DeGrandi. I live in Williston, and I operate a crematorium over at the airport. And I've met with Terry a couple times. I just wanted to come to the meeting and see if there was anything, any news about natural gas entering the airport.
Latricia, could you go to page 72 of the budget?
72.
I actually have a nice answer for somebody, so I'm excited.
It's good to have a nice answer. I know we talked about it at our last meeting. Is that the capital budget? Where's that?
Gas
What's-
line extension,
I know, but what's-
$60,000.
Is it in the capital budget or the supplemental?
It's in the total it's in the total capital outlay. Yes, ma'am.
I can give you a hint.
No, it's not in supplement. It's on this page right here. Gas line extension.
Can I just give the council a little bit of a background because you guys probably don't know the whole story. Michael came to us and we found a great place for him at the airport, but when he came to us, we believed at the time we were going to be extending the gas. So he has been, I guess you've been here almost 2.5 years? 3 years. He's been using propane, which is another business that is not going to make it if that's the way it's going to continue.
Oh, I thought you said 72. 73 is the new one or 57? Well, mine's in my book, so it's hard to find. Oh, I found it. It's in my tabs, so it's hard to find. That's why I needed to know the section. So it's in the utility fund. All I needed to know.
Ms. Jones?
So when DNN came to us originally, we had plans to have gas at the airport at that time in that area, and we had another business out there that was going to need gas right away. So this, he can tell you the numbers, but after we do this, it's not only going to save DNN a lot of money and make them much more successful, but we're going to make money on it.
Yeah, so again, as I mentioned at the previous budget meeting, it's not just an expansion and then basically we eat the cost. So obviously they're going to get on gas. They're going to be a good gas customer. But you also have Monterey, and Monterey is capped out on what they can be provided through the 23-pound line that they have. The 100-pound line would also go to them, and they have heaters on quite a few facilities that they want to add on. So our winter months, which are good months for the gas, will make significant revenue. So I believe when Katie Hall from FGU did the numbers, this money would come back in like 3.7 years of usage, and then after that point, we have that infrastructure that's then at that point gone into the property there and been accessible to any expansion that the airport may have as opportunities for businesses, manufacturing, whatever they may have. So it gets the line further down. This is the connection from B&G. And it continues that line where we valved it off and then comes up the one side. I think it's the west side, northwest side of the airport. And the old sheriff's hangar.
Oh, gotcha.
And then would come through into...
Yeah, I remember you telling me it went out the back.
Right. Yes. So that's what this is. It's a capital outlay, but it is definitely an investment in future revenue. That has at the bottom 72 or 57.
It has 57.
What's the timeline?
So it would be about 180,000 if we RFP'd it and contracted it out. We're waiting for staff to wrap up some projects. We need to finish John Henry. We need to finish Paganio. We need to finish some roads projects and things like that. So we're hoping that probably sometime toward end of spring, beginning of summer, that we would have all the materials in hand, and then we would basically, of course, call in our 811 and do the project. But this budget year is the goal to have it completed.
Is that good? Does that work for you? Okay.
So I have a question. No, for Donald. Sorry. So on page 73, and I guess that's supplemental schedule, and then the 57, those amounts are different. Why the difference in the prices for the gas line extension? Or maybe that's Stephen.
Which one's the more money? That's the one that was the right one.
Well,
One's 50,000, one's 60,000.
One's 50,000, one's 60,000.
So I can tell you
when we
that the
look at
gas line
supplemental-
extension on the page there that has the utility fund gas services, that is the correct number for the line extension. If he has a capital outlay separate from that, that's most likely other types of equipments or upgrades. That 50,000 could potentially be, I know that we have to fix the sewer plant gate station. We've replaced Monterey. We've replaced Northwest 7th. They gave us 2 years, the Public Service Commission, to upgrade the station that was from the 1960s. So that may be that money, but Stephen will have to answer that more directly.
Right. So it says utility fund, public works, page 73 of the new.
Now, one's in the utility fund and
So
one's
one-
on the capital budget.
Right. So those are two different things.
But Stephen online, because it's almost the same, looks like the same amount of money.
And one's 50, one's 60.
Yeah, but did they both say gas line extension?
They do.
Yeah.
So I just want we
Yeah,
need
no,
to make
that's
sure
just-
that it's.
We'll take both.
Yeah,
I know you would,
Yeah,
but
But one's in the budget, and the other one is to be
Is
paid for by the revenue.
Yeah, I think Stephen's trying to explain.
no, the correct number is 50.
okay.
So I just need to, there's a typo.
Hey, you
So
can save
the typo is
$10,000
in
right
the-
there.
Okay, awesome. Just curious.
So Stephen, what's the purpose of the supplemental schedule?
Its only purpose is if you wanted to see all capital on one page instead of having to flip through the whole budget book to get by department. That's all it is. The only reason for it is to try and give another way of looking at the same numbers.
Definitely easier. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
And it tells how it would be funded on that page.
Yeah.
The other one
Correct.
you would think is in the budget.
And you lost $10,000 with that question?
Yeah, I'd like to reclaim my time.
Sorry, I shouldn't have asked, but no.
All right, anybody else? Well, the time.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
The next meeting is scheduled for August the 20th, which is election. I need consensus from the board to start the council meeting at 7 instead of 6 p.m., please.
Well,
I
guess
consent.
we kind of
We have
no
my
choice
consensus.
there.
That's what we always do.
Just wanted to.
Could we do it at 3?
No, we
They
cannot
don't
do
want
it
us
while
to do
they're
it while the polls are open.
exactly.
Right.
So is everybody good with 7 o'clock?
7 is good for me.
Okay.
Okay.
I
August
think
the
you have
20th.
consensus. So question real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, what are you doing?
No, I was just going to say again, the next scheduled council meeting is August the 20th at 7 p.m.
Oh, I actually have that on my agenda, on my calendar.
You okay?
already.
So, real quick, I know on our schedule for the public hearing, 5:30. Are we going to keep it at that, or are we going to change it to 6?
5:30.
I don't think we can change it.
We can't change
Because
it.
it's
So is
been
that something that
advertised.
has? Okay. But if everybody's not here, we're still good.
Have to have at least 3 people here.
Okay.
Yes.
3 council members.
Thank you. So I have sent out an email to all of the council about Ms. Wright's evaluation. That's due on the 26th
Thank
of this
you
month.
for the
also.
reminder.
You're welcome.
Can you print it and put it in my box?
I sure can.
Please.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anybody? Anything else? All right.
Right here.
Yes, ma'am. 7 o'clock. And who is it?
Hand that woman a microphone.
We have music in the park Friday night at 7. It's Bryce Carlisle. And then on Saturday we have an adoption. We're taking the puppies to the Tractor Supply. So hope to get some adoptions for our puppies. What time is that one, Laura? 9 to 11 at Tractor Supply on Saturday.
Very nice. Very good. Anybody else? Any takers? Okay.
Move we adjourn?
entertain a motion till we adjourn.
Have a
I
second.
second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Time is 7:35. And this meeting
Got to
is
go
closed.
pack.
Me too.